Are you ready for the best damn radio show on the planet? Man Hour Nation, rise up.
You know on the beat every time, no. I would like to personally welcome you to Man Hour After Dark. Say that thing. I bring you the host, Mike, Buck, and Cone. You know who's coming to the stage. Sports talk than what you about to hear right here. I second that. Go. You know that that's us when we talking about sports. Giving you facts on the field to the core. Tune in, we need the support. 1 hour too short, then listen some more. On all your stations, not dropping no music. Starts like Adidas, but Nike just do it. Down 4 in the 4th, we go for the win. Michael 2 seconds, we taking it in. Buck, Mike, and Combs, you know what's going on. Man, now we're After Dark, no LA, we the big spark. No 4th and inches, won't cut short. Got the best talking, it's all sports. Buzzing more than buzz beaters. We coming live all through your speakers, go.
And what is going on, Man Hour Nation? It's your boy, Beastie Brandon Combs, coming to you live on this Sunday morning here in the beautiful city of Chicago. Well, it was beautiful, and then it got cold and snowy and rainy and all sorts of stupid shit. God, I hate the winter time, man. But anyways, I digress from that. Make sure that you guys are clicking the like, share, and subscribe button if you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, whichever platform you are listening to us on, watching us on, whatever the case is. If you're on ESPN in Louisville, if you are overseas in England, eating your crumpets and drinking your tea, make sure you click that like, share, and subscribe button. And today we got a great show lined up for you. We're going to talk about the GM meetings. We're going to talk about the White Sox, the Cubs, all the things that they're about to do or not about to do in the White Sox case. We're going to talk about the Chicago Bears, the direction of that franchise, where they're going. We're going to talk about how they got hosed last week against the Miami Dolphins. But before we get into all that, I would like to introduce you guys to my new co-host. His name is Ryan Fitzgibbons. Ryan, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, Brandon, how you doing? Thanks for having me on. Thanks for calling me your co-host already, but I'm doing well. I'm happy to be on the show. I'm a long suffering Chicago sports fan, so
aren't we all?
Which I'm sure you're one. Even though the jersey you're wearing might change things a little bit here, I'm hoping. And it's a little bit more than hope after the last month or so, if you want to say. But thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, not a problem, man. It's always good to have somebody to talk to. It's funny. So Ryan's brother, him and I were talking, and he's talking to me about the show, and he loved what I was doing and stuff like that. So I had actually talked to him about getting on the show, and he's like, "Well, I don't really have the time with work and stuff." He's like, and this was last night. And he's like, "Hey, man, I'm having some beers with my brother in the garage. Why don't you come on over and have a chat with him?" It took me about 5 minutes of chatting with Ryan to be like, "Hey, let's do something tomorrow morning. Why don't you come on the show?" But you're a White Sox fan, right?
Yes, I got the pinstripes on today just for you.
So I'm a Cubs fan, as you can see in the background. I do love my Cubs. I don't hate the White Sox. I actually thought that this past year should have been the White Sox being the more exciting team. Of course, in the second half, it was actually the Cubs that were more exciting to watch because of the way things were going, and you didn't expect them to be as good as they were in the second half. But what's going on with your White Sox? Like, what is your feeling as far as the White Sox go in the direction that they're moving?
I think they'll spend more than you think, but I could be wrong. I mean, it seems like you got better news on that, but I think they're going to spend a little bit more, especially. And we talked last night, yes, in a garage. So in Southside Chicago fashion, we were drinking in a garage. But anyway, about the AJ Pollock leaving. I mean, It does take money off of what is a less than soft salary cap, I guess you could say, in Major League Baseball right now. So I do think they are going to spend a little money. I don't see how they can't. Really. I mean, there is some hope. I think they need another starting pitcher. I think everybody's going to get a bullpen help. I mean, every team does it, shuffles around their bullpen every year. I mean, it's, I think we know that. And I think they need a second baseman. I think it's good that Oscar Colas had a great year in his first year in the minors, first full year in the minors. Left-handed, that's the left-handed bat they need. I think they probably need another left-handed bat because unfortunately, I don't think Gavin Sheets is going to be the answer there. Even though he had a pretty good year, he surged late. I just don't know if he's an everyday. I don't think he's an everyday outfielder, and I don't think he might be an everyday hitter. Especially
I mean, you guys don't really have very many everyday outfielders on the south side of Chicago. You got a bunch of first basemen / DHs that are playing the outfield is what you guys have. Like, I mean, it is ridiculous how they've put this out there and been like, hey, you guys just go play the outfield. Just go. Eloy Jimenez cannot play the outfield. He can play the outfield, but he can't play the outfield and stay healthy. Like, I love Eloy Jimenez. I really do. I think that, but I think he's your prototypical DH, right? I think he's a big poppy type player. You look at Luis Robert. He's another one. I know that a lot of White Sox fans are down on me when I say this, but I would trade him while his stock is still high. I know he's got a lot of potential, but imagine what you could get in return. And maybe you get somebody in return who you can count on to play at least maybe 150 games a year, as opposed to maybe the 100 or 120 that you're going to get out of Luis Robert. I do feel like he brings you in some much needed talent. I do feel like you could go out there and you can get a second baseman through a trade if you put Luis Robert in there, Liam Hendricks in there. I think that you're looking at a soft second base market right now. I think you're the best second baseman on the market right now is probably Gene Segura. I mean, Adam Frazier's out there too, but I don't think that they're going to pay that type of money to get those two guys. Like, you're not going to get for everything that I'm hearing from the White Sox and what I've heard from them in the GM meetings, and this comes from a really credible source, is that they're not spending money. They're not talking to agents. They talked to a couple of relief pitchers agents, but that was it. Like, they are not talking about getting better through free agency. It's going to have to be through trade.
And I think it's a normal fan reaction to get mad when your team doesn't spend, like, to yell about it. It is.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, but I'd be angry at that. If that is true, then I'd be pretty angry about that because they didn't really spend last year. And you kind of thought with the Keuchel contract, with, a couple of contracts they were in, they did lock some of their young players. You mentioned Luis Robert. They locked in Eloy Jimenez. They locked in Yohan Moncada. So you were thinking, okay, well, maybe this is a year where they want to see what's happening. Not that they were still rebuilding, because obviously they were in the playoffs 2 years in a row, but it was kind of like, okay, we're reshuffling a little bit to see what happens. There was a lot of injuries, obviously. I think a lot of teams can blame it on that, but their injuries were historically bad. But anyway, I think the point I'm trying to make is if they don't spend this year, that's 2 years in a row they really didn't spend. And that would really piss me off. So I am going to be that prototypical fan right now and say that if they don't spend, I will not be happy.
And look, that's what Chicago sports is right now, though, right? Like I said it last week on the first Chicago show that I ran, is what pisses me off as a Chicago sports fan, where I really get aggravated with being a fan of teams of this city. Like, I love the Blackhawks. I'm a big Blackhawks guy. I love the Bulls. I love the Bears. I love the Cubs. And I even like the White Sox, right? The problem is we've got, 4 owners of those 5 teams that all treat us like we're the Tampa Bay market. Like, we are a small market city.
Yeah.
None of them spend. There is no reason a Chicago team should ever have to go through a rebuild. The one thing that pissed me off this year about Jed Hoyer, where I lost my mind when he said this, and he goes in an interview, they asked him about the direction of the club and the future of the club. And he goes, well, I think you got to look at teams like the Tampa Bay Rays, and I really love what they've done. And I'm thinking to myself, what? Develop talent and then trade it off before they have to pay them? Is that what we're destined to? Because what I think a Chicago team should be is like the Los Angeles Dodgers, like the Atlanta Braves, like the Philadelphia Phillies. Build through your organization, spend money, and continuously be in the conversation of World Series contenders or championship contenders, because that's what the city of Chicago does. I went to a Blackhawks game on a Tuesday. They have depleted this roster, minus the fact that they're still talking about trading Taves and Kane, which drives me nuts as well. But they've depleted this roster, and this team's not going to be very good this year. But on a Tuesday night, the United Center was 3/4 of the way full.
Yeah, or half full. When I went to the Edmonton Oilers game a couple weeks ago, it was half full. Well, maybe it was 3/4. I'll be nice. Maybe it was 3/4 full. But to back up to your Cubs comments, I feel exactly the same way. They went on the Dodgers track. You mentioned the Dodgers. They definitely went on that track. They started their own network. Look at the money that the Dodgers are just printing over there. And then they spent it. And then we're talking about luxury tax, the quote unquote luxury tax. Like, why are you talking about that? You bought a team for $900 million.
Yeah.
That's not what 4 times has quadrupled and what the cost of the team is right now. I mean, I know you can't really draw from that, or you can draw loans from that, I'm sure, but you're not going to spend money now. You're going to talk to me about money after you won the 2016 World Series, maybe the most popular World Series in our lifetime, or one of them. Coming from a Sox fan who in 2005 was one of the least popular World Series, if you just look at viewership. But I mean, you have all that viewership, you had all this, all these good things happening, and then you're right. I think you're exactly right. I don't know why they traded off a lot of their guys. You're going to have to make me, believe in some of the return they got on that.
I know why they traded half of their guys. They traded half of their guys because they didn't want to spend the money to keep their guys. Yeah. They traded half of their guys because they weren't building around their guys to get them the talent that they did. They kind of like sent them out there and left them out there to dry, a lot like what the White Sox are doing right now. They're just like, all right, well, you guys are talented, so you guys are going to have to figure it out yourself. We're not going to plug the holes that we have in the relief pitching. We're not going to plug the holes that we have with our pitching staff getting older and leaving us, right? Yeah. They just said, hey, you guys are talented enough. Let's do what we got to do. They're not building around their talent. That's the thing that drives me nuts. There's no reason why Chris Bryant, Bryant and Rizzo, and even to an extent, Baez, like I was kind of okay with them leaving at the time that they left, right? Because you got a 34-year-old first baseman with chronic back issues. You've got a Chris Bryant who's a third baseman / outfielder who is always having ailments. He's always hurt, which the Colorado Rockies found out this year. And then you've got freaking Javier Baez, who would swing at a pitch that bounced from Sister Jean if she was in a wheelchair, like throw it to him, because that's just the way Baez swings out of his shoes, right? Like, he only plays good against the White Sox. Like, that's the only time Baez plays good is when you're playing the White Sox. But he doesn't, like, I understood why they let those guys go, and I understood the trade value in which they got for them, and they did get some good trade value in that. Like, you got Justin Steele out of the Chris Bryant deal. You got what's the other kid that we've got? His name's escaping me right now. The kid we had come up and play center field all year. I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head, but we've got those. Chris Morel, there we go. We got Chris Morel out of that deal. So you got some good quality pieces out of that deal. And they might even go, I don't think it'll happen, but I mean, it wouldn't shock me if Rizzo comes back to the Cubs this offseason, being a free agent. He just opted out of his Yankees deal. Like, it'd be one of those stories. Fans would be happy. And that's why the Cubs aren't forced to spend, is because they won in 2016. I know you said, I can't believe that they did this after winning. That's exactly why they're doing it, is because they won in 2016. The fan base is happy. It's only been 5 years since we won a World Series. 6 years now since we won a World Series. Before that, it was 108. So we're not fed up just yet. But this team, they've got some good direction. They're willing to spend money, and that's where I'm at with them. The Cubs are talking to everybody in the GM meetings. They met with Correa's people. They met with Xander Bogaerts' agent, which is the same agent as Correa's. And then you have, they're talking with Josh Bell. They're talking with Jose Abreu. They're talking with Jacob deGrom. They're talking with all sorts of people in these GM meetings. The Cubs are going to spend money this offseason. And the direction that they're going, I really like. There are a couple things that I want to see them go out and get. They need a center fielder who, I don't even care if he can hit. I just want a center fielder that can play center field every day, which I liked when the Rays declined the option on Kevin Kiermaier, because I think that he would be a great addition to the Cubs roster. We need an everyday third baseman. And I think that if you sign Xander Bogaerts, I think you push him over to third, because you can't, dude. If I have to go through another season of watching Patrick Wisdom as my everyday third baseman, I'm going to stab myself in the face. I can't go through another. I like Patrick Wisdom, I really do. He can't be my everyday third baseman.
No.
I can't do it. I can't do it. You're not going to win that like that. So I think you move Xander over to third. I think you keep Nico over at short. And you probably, if you go out and get Kevin Kiermaier, you can move Christopher Morel over to second base. And you've got your infield set. Your outfield is getting better with Kevin Kiermaier. And then you need, a starting pitcher and some relief help. I do like their starting rotation. I like their starting rotation last year. I know they're not big names, they're not big guys, but they were really good last year.
Yeah, they were.
Their bullpen killed us. That's what happened. The bullpen killed us last year. So I don't know about you, but that's what I'm looking for out of these GM meetings.
Better at second.
I think Horner will be all right wherever you're at. The kid can flat out hit, and especially with no shift, he's going to be one of those guys that's just going to rake this year. I think Jose Abreu is going to have a much better year this year with no shift. I think that Anthony Rizzo is going to benefit from the shift. I think there's going to be a lot of players that benefit from the banning of the shift, which to me, again, is the stupidest freaking thing baseball's done.
I think you should be able to put your guys wherever. They want better athletic plays, I think was what they were saying for second base.
Could you imagine if I shifted on Tony Gwynn? The guy would have hit 950.
Yeah.
Teach your hitters how to hit.
Exactly. And I think two guys on the Sox who will benefit from it is Sheets and Grandal. If Grandal can stay healthy for 120 games, I mean, that's all you really want from him. I did not see his production going down this past season. I mean, that was a big hit for the Sox too, which he was injured for a lot of it.
Yeah, I was going to say he wasn't healthy most of the year.
He had like a 940 OPS in 2021. I just thought that the way he hits, helps a batter like him as you age, just because he's going to hit 220, 230, but he's going to walk a lot. But I think, the change in shift will help him for sure.
And I also think that Grifol going to the White Sox, I mean, I really like this hire, and I know a lot of White Sox fans really wanted to see Ozzie Guillen, and I was one of them. I was one of those guys who was like, Ozzie Guillen should be the. I mean, it made everything that they were saying before they had made a hire was, we want a guy who's been around an organization that's won a championship. Okay, Ozzie Guillen checks that box. He's actually the last manager that won in your organization, so he checks that box. Then you want somebody who is Spanish speaking, who can relate to the players. Ozzie Guillen checks off that box. Plus, he's been around the players every day for the last 2 years as an analyst. Mm-hmm. To me, everything they wanted was Ozzie Guillen. But then they hired Grifol, and I really like to hire Grifol. I like his pedigree with player development. I like obviously he can relate to Spanish speaking players, but most importantly, they went to the Blackhawks game the day after he was hired, right? And who was sitting next to him at the Blackhawks game was Grandal.
Yeah.
So
I saw the pictures. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a good move. I think that what they're heading towards is good. I just don't know how they get better in the areas that they need to get better without spending money. I don't know how you get another right fielder without spending money. I don't know how you get a second baseman without spending any money. And I don't know how you get another frontline starter without spending any money.
You need 2 out of those 3. I mean, you really do. You need 2 out of those 3 at least. And if Oscar Coles is going to be your guy and right, if he is, which, he had almost a 900 OPS over two, double A and triple A last year. I even thought there might be a September call up for him, but there wasn't, which is fine. I don't think he would have made a big impact on the team anyway, but he is, like I said, a left-handed hitter, like I said earlier. If you're going to do that, that's fine. Then you pay for a second baseman and a frontline starter, or you make a trade like you said. Maybe that's the way they want to go. I just don't like a trade. Like you said in the very beginning of the show, I don't like a trade when you have money to spend. Don't tell me you don't have money to spend. Especially with that sweetheart deal they have on that stadium. And there were butts and seats this year. There was butts and seats last year. I mean, even in 2019 when they were kind of terrible, even though you had a lot of young players playing well that year. I mean, Moncada and Anderson had, career years that year. Even in that year, you had butts and seats. I mean, you made money. I don't get it. I really don't get why they're not spending. I mean, like I said, it would make me angry. I'd be the prototypical fan yelling that they're not saber rattling.
And that's what I think. I think that you're going to have to be that guy, because there is no signs right now that they're willing to spend. They believe that they got it in place, and what they're doing is, hey, Pedro Grafal, fix this. And they've got the talent. They really do. To me, I own 2 White Sox jerseys. Both of them are Tim Anderson jerseys. Because the way this kid plays the game, I love watching Tim Anderson play baseball. I was really hoping that they would have let him go to free agency this year and not picked up his option, because I would have loved to see him on the north side of Chicago. And so I love watching that kid play baseball. I love watching Luis Robert. Eloy Jimenez to me is obviously a prototypical DH, but he is fun to watch when he's at the dish. Grandal, I know he had an off year, but he's still Grandal. He's still a top 10 catcher in this game right now. And so I like those pieces, but there's something about those pieces when, it's really tough to tell, right? Because they just got over 2 years of the worst management hire in the history of the Major League Baseball, right? Like, it was when they hired Tony La Russa, I was like, what?
You're telling me you don't like intentional walks on 1-2 counts? I was at that Dodgers game. I didn't even know it happened because, you're talking with people and you're like, I was like, how did he walk him? And then after the game, I had found out he intentionally walked him
on a 1-2 count, and then
doubled down on it,
backed it up twice, and then he did it again later on in the year, and doubled down on it again. Like, it was a normal thing. And it's like, he's like, I don't understand why this is still a question. Tony, because you're the only person that's ever done it, and now you've done it twice. Like, what is going on? Like, if you're the pitcher on the mound and you've got a guy down 1-2, I don't care who it is. I don't care if you got Babe Ruth up to the plate. If it's a 1-2 count and you're telling me that I have to intentionally walk this guy after I'm already ahead of him 1-2, you're just taking me out of the game. Like, you're telling me you don't trust me to throw one more strike. You're telling me that you don't trust me to get this guy out. And so a
runner-up for the Cy Young, or maybe I didn't see how the voting went, but maybe the runner-up, maybe third place in the Cy Young voting was on the mound. Dylan Cease was on the mound.
Oh God, he killed me. In some of his management, the answers that he gave, and he single-handedly cost them that playoff series last year. Mm-hmm. And it just, like, he did not know how to manage a bullpen. He had just lost it. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't buy the health issues for a minute. I believe that they knew that this was
really.
I don't know why they didn't make this move at the All-Star break, because at the All-Star break, the White Sox were still contending, and it was obvious that they weren't buying into what Tony La Russa was selling, and they still had a chance at that point. And then by the time that you finally said, you know what, Tony, we're going to tell everybody that you have to have a new pacemaker, or your heart's not good enough, so that way you can ride off into the sunset, and it's not your fault. You didn't quit, and we didn't fire you, but something's got to happen here because it's not working. And then it did work, right? For a little while, it worked until
did.
they just got obliterated by the Indians in that last series where they had a chance to overtake them. But I mean, they just didn't show up for that whole 3-game series. It was
Oh my
brutal. It was
God.
brutal
I
to
was at the
watch.
Wednesday game,
Yeah,
which is one of the worst played games. The worst place to be in sports is 500. I mean, it
yeah,
is. Especially
yeah.
when you have a team that's talented. That's the worst place to be. And that Wednesday game was one of the worst placed games I've ever seen. I've ever been at, for sure.
Yeah.
Probably the worst placed game I've ever been at. Probably.
Yeah, and they should have been no less than a 94 win team, but
Yeah.
instead, would they win 78?
No, they won 81. They were 81
Did
and
they?
81.
Okay. Yeah.
Just to put a fucking
Yeah.
exclamation point on
It's
mediocrity.
it's so bad. It's so bad when you should be a team that ran away with this division. This
Yes.
division was not that good. And look, the Guardians were a scrappy team. They really
Yeah.
were. And I hate
Good,
calling them
good
we had this
defense.
conversation last night.
Great management. Yeah.
I hate calling them the Guardians, but they're the Guardians now.
Yes.
And they had a good season. They're a scrappy ball club. They were fun to watch. I was actually rooting for I wanted to see Guardians versus Braves in the World Series because I was like,
Really?
damn, that'd be two young, scrappy teams that were
Mhm.
just, because that's just what I wanted. I mean, after the Cubs are out, I just start rooting for good baseball because I'm the type of guy that if the Cubs aren't playing, I'm watching another game. I don't care who's playing. I'm watching a baseball
Yep.
game. I
Yep.
love
Me too.
baseball. Baseball's it's my biggest passion is baseball.
Mhm. Same here.
Michelle jokes all the time that it's my kids, baseball, and then her. So and she's partly right about that, but we won't tell her that. If you're watching, babe, I'm sorry. But anyway, I really say as a Chicago sports fan, we've just got to get past all of the rebuilds because there's no
Ugh.
reason why Chicago teams should ever be going through a rebuild. We should go through a retooling every once in a while,
Yeah.
but we should be competitive every year because we spend the money to go out there. I mean, how much I went to a Blackhawks game. It was and mind you, I like sitting in the upper deck because I think you can see everything. I don't like sitting behind the glass because when
Like
you're
the
sitting
bubble
behind the
hockey.
glass, yeah, it's just to me it's fun to watch. But if I'm sitting behind the glass, there's a lot of stuff that I miss because you can't
Mhm.
see everything. So sitting in the 300 levels at the United Center, it was for 4 tickets. It was $240 for parking. It was another $30, and then food and drinks and all that stuff was probably a little bit over $150. It cost me $600 to go see a Blackhawks game, and you're telling me that you can't spend money to keep a roster when there's 15 20,000 people in the stands at $600 a piece, and that's just for the freaking cheap seats. Imagine if I had paid $240 a seat behind the glass like they want you to pay. There's no way. Like it's insane to me to think that these owners don't have the money to spend. They have the money to spend. They just don't want to spend it.
Yeah.
Is the way that it goes. And we're going to transition here into the Bears talk. And as we're transitioning, we're
Yeah.
talking about owners. I said last night to you when we were talking that the best thing that could happen to the Bears is the death of Virginia McCaskey. And I think that once Virginia McCaskey is gone, and look, I'm not wishing death upon Virginia McCaskey. I'm not. But she's 99 years old, all right? So she could be like the queen and she can
The
go off
Queen
and
of England.
she can go ahead and just ride off into the sunset and sell this team. Let the kids sell this team. We got a new stadium on the horizon. We've got a new location on the horizon. We've got, I believe, the correct GM and the correct coaching staff in place right now. Do you agree with me that the
I
sale of
just
the Bears is probably the best
it,
option for the
I
Bears
think
moving
it's
forward?
wishful. I think it's wishful garage south side of Chicago at 9 o'clock at night thinking, or whenever you came over, 7 o'clock at night, thinking. Just because I mean, if they were like, pumping oil like Jerry Jones, I think that's how Jerry Jones made his money was in oil.
Yeah.
or, like some of these other, like Mark Cuban already has the money and his kids take over and they have other business, streams of wealth. That this is their streams of wealth and it's a cash machine. Like I just don't
But
think
the
that
kids have said that they have they don't have, they don't want to own the team. Like they don't see themselves owning this team. I mean, they've got plenty of money. I mean, they're taking care of their children, are taking care of their children's children, are taken care of right now, and they've got other ventures that they're into. I really do believe that there's going to be a sale, and I don't think it's garage talk. I really don't
I
believe
don't think it's
that
garage.
that the McCaskey family is going to hold this on after Virginia is gone. I really don't. They might hold on to it for a couple of years because they're probably about 5 years away from that new stadium being ready. So they might hold on to it for 2 or 3 years, but as soon as that stadium's close to being ready, I think they sell, because you're talking about what, 7, 8, maybe even $9 billion sale, dude. I don't care what I own. I love Chicago sports. If I own the Chicago Bears and somebody offered me $9 billion, I would. Yes, yeah.
Private claim money.
Here's the franchise. $9 billion.
What is it going to be worth in 10 years? I mean, look, I haven't heard those reports, and I'm guessing you're right that they want to sell the team. If that happens, yes, yeah, I would definitely be on board with that. Like, let her ride off into your sunset, and pull the plug, whatever. She is 99.
Yeah.
Take Queen of England way out, but. How about this for my own wishful thinking? Can I give you this scenario?
Sure.
They move to Arlington.
Yep.
The NFL is expanding. You can probably see where I'm going.
Oh
A
no.
Southside football team.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
I think
You can't even get one franchise to win. You want a second one?
Yeah, no.
I mean,
I know, but I think there's room. I think there's room. I think they would consider it. I mean, the NFL's expanding. It's happening. They're going to bring 2 or 4 more.
But they're expanding overseas. I hate the idea, but we're gonna have a team in England. We're gonna have a team. It's a stupid idea. I don't like it. I don't think it's gonna be fair to the players that are playing on that team or even in their division. I don't, they're probably going to try to get a team down in Mexico. I can guarantee that, because they're trying to become a global brand, and I don't like it. I don't like the idea of another team in Chicago either, because I'll tell you what. Actually, now that I'm starting to think about it, maybe another team in Chicago won't be a bad idea, because then I could at least choose. All right, let's see what this other ownership is bringing. Yes. If they're going to start winning, I might not be a Bears fan anymore.
I'll jump off the bandwagon so fast I'll sprain my ankle.
I just want to. I don't want it to be at Soldier Field though. I haven't gone to a Bears game in 20 years, and it's because that stadium is so hard to get in and out of. It's not a good experience. Even inside the stadium is not a good experience. Like, they don't put on a good show. Like, I don't enjoy going to Bears games. I'd rather sit in front of my TV and be able to switch it off when they're down by 30 plus points, because their ownership is terrible and their GM sucked and all that, which is starting to turn the table, right? Yes. We're starting to get beyond that, as long as we don't have officials who are hosing us on calls. And last Sunday, we had this game against the Miami Dolphins, and I'm watching. I'm like, I picked the Dolphins on Man Hour Chicago. I picked the Dolphins to win 35-30 in a shootout. Now, the final was 35-32. It was a shootout, but the Bears should have at the very least had an opportunity to kick a game-tying field goal. He got tackled by not one, but 2 Miami Dolphin defenders 30 seconds before the ball even arrived. And there was a referee standing from myself to my TV that is about 5 feet away from me right now. And he doesn't throw a flag. Like, I don't understand what he was looking at. I don't know how to say it anymore. And I never blame officiating for anything. I referee hockey for youth hockey. I referee hockey for high school and college. I've coached, so I know that it's not. There are some bad calls, but ultimately, usually the bad calls offset and they don't really cost you a game, right? This one cost them the ability
Absolutely.
to tie the game, and so for me, the Bears absolutely got hosed against the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That play, I might have mentioned this last night, but if you have that call against Eddie Jackson, what, 5 or 10 minutes before that,
Yeah,
that gives Miami the lead, and then you don't call that call?
right. Yeah,
You don't call that call where Eddie Jackson is just playing the ball.
yeah.
I mean, both players are. They jump up
His
for it.
head is up. He didn't even look at the defender or
Yeah.
at the wide receiver. He was looking at the ball the entire time.
I
He
think it was
was-
on the other it wasn't the same ref. I mean, I
no,
think it was on the other side of the field. And you have the 2 sideline refs that call that play, but still, you have the same crew that doesn't call that play and doesn't and wasn't didn't they experiment with reviewing pass interference calls after that Saints call in the
they did.
championship game a
They
few years
did,
ago?
and to me, I think every call needs to be a reviewable play. Look, you got 2 challenges, and you get a third one if you get them both correct. Why can't you have that system just make everything reviewable? You got 2 challenges.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be reviewable in the NFL for one. For two, officiating has to get better. This wasn't just the Bears. I mean, this was league wide. The
Mhm.
officiating has been terrible for probably about 5 years now. I mean, it is just bad. And now I don't know what you think, but I also have this, and I speak about it a lot on the Man Hour, and I want to bring you in on this because I want to get your thoughts. I think that Vegas and people are all about, oh, the NFL is rigged, blah blah blah, and I always thought, oh, it can't be rigged. There's no way you're gonna get players. There's no way you're gonna get coaches on board to lose games. They lose their jobs. They lose money if they're losing football games, right?
Mhm.
But then I start thinking about it, and I start thinking about the bad calls, and I start thinking about Vegas and what role Vegas plays in it, and how they could have Vegas, the owners, and the officials in on something that can determine outcomes of games. Right? The
Mhm.
Bears in that game are a 2.5 point dog. They're a 2.5 point dog, and all of the money is on the Bears.
You're damn
Everybody
right.
was taking the Bears and the points in this game because of how well the Bears have been playing, how well that offense has been playing, and they were in Chicago. And that play where the referee is staring at the call and it doesn't get made is a prime example of why I think Las Vegas runs the NFL. It's why I think that there is some collusion when it comes to it because of league wide, they decide when to throw the flag. They decide
Yep.
what they're going to do. And it never makes sense, right? And then the league will send out a letter like they did to the Bears this week and say, you know what, we overturned both of those calls. They were both bad calls. Sorry about your luck, but you still got a loss for the game. And so they just get a letter in the mail. So to me, Vegas runs the NFL. Watch where the money's at. If you even if you don't believe me, watch where the money's at moving forward. You watch a game, pick any game. Doesn't even have to be a Bears game. Watch a game. Watch the calls. See where they're going. Are they leaning? And then look it up because you can find out where the money's at. You can find
Yep.
out the point spread. You can find out who's betting where, and you know it because the line moves up and down. Like if you're a betting guy like myself, you know how the line moves, so you know where the money's at. And 9 times out of 10, they will give that team the opportunity. Now, it doesn't always work because sometimes teams are just they don't execute or whatever the case is. The other team might just be better, but they will give every team the opportunity to win Vegas the money. That's what they do.
Yep.
What do you think about that?
Let the conspiracy theories fly. Post it on 5chan. QAnon is a thing. No, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of conspiracy theories too, and it's not really that big of a conspiracy, right? I mean, it's just all you have to have is 2 parties colluding to have a conspiracy. It doesn't have to be that wide ranging, and it's very easy. It's not like, and it doesn't even have to be purposely happening. Right? You
Right.
don't have to have somebody say, "Oh yeah, don't call this, don't call that." You can just have referees who, hang out in the same circles, know where the league is going, know what team they want to either win or, like you said, either cover or don't cover the spread. There doesn't even have to be a conversation about this really, or an email or an email thread on this. This could just be something that's just happening naturally because of the way and referees who know the way they're going. It doesn't have to be like the Sacramento Kings Lakers series from like 20 years ago where Kobe Bryant is knocking out Mike Bibby and not getting called for a foul. It doesn't have to be that much, but it doesn't even have to be a conversation. But yeah, I can totally agree with that. I mean, and then that Pittsburgh game last year against the Bears, that I think was a Monday night game. That was like probably until this season in the last month and a half, probably Justin Fields' best game too.
Yeah.
And that rickety offense, with that rickety offensive line and all that. But yeah, that was probably his best game. That second half, he was great. That fourth quarter, he was great. And some of the fouls in that, the head referee retired after that, quote unquote. I forget his name, but he retired at that. I remember he bumped one of the players.
I wonder how he could afford to retire after that.
Yes. Yeah, so yeah, I'm all for conspiracy theories, and with betting, it gets more and more. I mean, when we were kids, no one talked about a betting line during a game.
No.
Even 10 years ago, right? Or 15 years ago, maybe.
No,
if you want to stretch it that much.
But yeah, who are the biggest proponents right now of the NFL? Who are the biggest supporters? Right, you got DraftKings, you got FanDuel, you got BetMGM. Like you've got all these players that all of these Vegas controlled entities are now all of a sudden in on the NFL. Now all of a sudden gambling's legal. I mean, I could go to a Bears game now and I could make a bet inside of the stadium. Like it's crazy, but that's where it's at right now. And look,
do you download an app? Do you download a betting app? I do. Can't do it.
So I have PointsBet on my phone.
I couldn't do it, man. I'd be on that thing.
Dude, so I limit myself, right? So I'll put $100 on it about every 3 months.
That's smart.
And then I just play with my winnings. So if I win, cool, I'll play with that until I'm down to zero. And usually I get back down to zero. But so I'll put down $100, every couple of months. But it's it is. I mean, if you have a gambling addiction, I mean, it would be really tough. I'm not one of those. Like, I love to play poker. I play a lot of poker. I play for the Windy City Poker Tour. So I love to play poker. And I love to gamble, but it doesn't run my life. You know what I mean? I'm sure if I was one of those guys who had to call 1-800-GAMBLER, we would probably have a little bit more of an issue. But so we've got the direction of the Chicago Bears, and we've got what we've seen with the trades, with what happened at the trade deadline, with what we have moving forward. At addition of Chase Claypool, subtraction of Robert Quinn, subtraction of Roquan Smith, it shows that the Bears are moving in the direction of building around Justin Fields. We're finally going to be building around a quarterback. And on top of that, we have $114 million in cap space heading into this offseason.
Damn.
The direction of the Bears is bright. Like, I really love what I'm seeing out of the Chicago Bears. I like what Ryan Poles is doing. I like Matt Eberflus. I like the direction of this team. I like the fact that even though we're not winning games, we come out in the second half of every game and we're better than we were in the first half.
Yep.
Every single game this year.
Beginning of the year. They said that at the beginning of the year, and you're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
But because we're used to being thrown through the ringer with the Bears, right? We're used to being told one thing and getting shown another thing. But this time we're actually being shown what we're told. And I like the direction of that. I like building around Justin Fields. I'm a big believer in Justin Fields.
Absolutely electric. I was going to ask that. What did you think coming out of the draft? Because I actually, and you'll find one of my blank spots is college football. I do watch, was watching
Mhm.
last night. But the games were on when you were there in the
Yeah.
garage. But I watched a lot of Justin Fields in college, and I was really happy when they drafted him. What did you think of the draft when it first happened?
So we did a draft night special on the Man Hour, and I was excited. Like I was when they traded up to 11. Like if you watch that episode, you see me jump out of my. We're getting Justin Fields. Oh my God, we're getting Justin Fields, right? And I've got the Justin Fields salute to service,
You got
hanging
the
here. I've
jersey.
got the jersey on. Like I was a bit, but I'm also a realist. So I actually said coming out of the draft, I really like this pick, but I want to see what they do around him because I know how the Bears are, and I don't know that we're going to build around this guy. And the only knock I had on him coming out of college is the same knock I have on him now, is that when he's in the pocket, he has a tendency to hold on to the ball too long. That's what I said on draft night, and it's still ringing true today. Like there are times where I'm like, dude, throw the ball. Like you don't need that 3-step break before like you do in college before you throw a ball. If your wide receiver has 1 step on the defender, you've got to release because that defender is going to make up ground while the ball's in the air. And he doesn't have that timing down yet when he's in the pocket. Now, I also know that he doesn't always have a pocket, right? His pocket is constantly collapsing right now. So
And that's another. Yeah, you can go first, but I think that's another point where they were saying that he waits longer than everybody else, but that's because he's scrambling half the time.
Right, but he's
scrambling.
Not only that, but we've never seen what he can do when he has 4 or 5 seconds to stand in a pocket because he's never had 4 or 5 seconds to stand in a pocket. He doesn't have the time that Josh Allen gets. He doesn't have the time that Patrick Mahomes gets or all of these other quarterbacks that are more successful than him because he hasn't been given that yet. Now, with $114 million in cap space and the direction that they've shown after the trade deadline, I fully 110% believe that next year he will have the players in place to give him that. He will have a better offensive line next year. I mean, he better for 114 million. 100 million of that better be spent on an offensive line.
And isn't that why they brought in Ryan Poles too? I mean, isn't that what Ryan Poles does? He's an offensive line. That's what he put together on the Chiefs. He had his fingerprints all over that. Had to build 2 lines with the Chiefs, really, with injuries and losing guys. That Chiefs line didn't do well against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a few years ago, but that's why he's here. I mean, for offensive and defensive line, right? And that's what they need. Obviously, that's what they need. I mean, it's pretty obvious. What do you think about Braxton Jones? I think he's got talent. I mean, I really do. I know he's green, and I know the popular point of view is he sucks, but I don't think so. I mean, I don't think he's going to be your left tackle next year.
I don't think he sucks. I think what he needs is, again, I think like him. I look at who's the kid that they don't like? Dude, I'm super bad with names when I'm thinking of it in the moment. What the hell's his name? Tevin Jenkins. Tevin Jenkins. I love Tevin Jenkins, but the Bears, for whatever reason, they don't seem to like him. I don't know what it is. They're talking about trading him in the preseason. They're talking about all this other stuff. He hasn't a lot of sack yet this year.
Yeah.
Hasn't a lot of sack. So this is a guy who can pass block and run block. I think that them 2 guys, when you put more guys around them that can help them out, their production will look a lot better than what it does right now. Same thing with can you imagine Justin Fields, the way he's playing right now with an offensive line that gives him time to breathe?
Even an average one at this point. I mean,
you're looking at, to me, a lot of people, because of his running ability, are liking him to Jackson out of Baltimore. I look at him more of like a Josh Allen type. I look at him, a guy who's got really good size, who can run, but he can also throw the ball. He's got good quarterback vision. He can clearly read a defense, because that's the one thing that I've been most impressed with Justin Fields over the last probably 4 weeks, right, is his ability to read the defense. Because if you're game planning right now for the Chicago Bears, right, if you are the Detroit Lions heading into the day, what's your one primary goal? Stop Justin Fields. Contain
Get
Justin
Brian
Fields.
Urlacher in his prime.
Yeah.
And tell him
No,
to spy on Justin
Yeah.
Fields. Other than that,
Right.
I don't know how you stop him, really.
And that's the thing. Like the NFL defenses right now are game planning for Justin Fields, and they haven't been able to stop him. To me, that's the most impressive part because he is reading them and he is picking them apart. He is finding holes and he is doing the things that you want a quarterback to do, and he's doing this without any time.
Is there a more talented defense than the Dallas Cowboys? Is there a more talented defense than the Dallas Cowboys? Or they're top three?
They're top three. Yeah, top three, top four. Yeah.
That game is what impressed me even more about than the Miami game. And you're right. And there was nothing
in New England
for it.
New England's always a top 10 defense. And he did both of those games were both on the road.
Yep, both on the road. What he did in both those games, especially the Dallas game.
Yeah.
Just because of all the talent they have and how fast they are on the edge. And I thought that they would do a lot better against him, and they did not. I mean, he had a great game against Dallas. He really did.
And all the Justin Fields haters out there, and there are a lot of them. I don't get it. But there are a lot of people in Chicago that do.
My brother John, you're in his garage.
Yeah, he doesn't believe Justin Fields is the guy moving forward. And I'm like, what are you watching? Well, they lost by 20 to the Dallas Cowboys. Well, the Dallas Cowboys are a top 2, maybe 3 team in the NFC period right now.
Yeah.
The Bears are a bottom 2 or 3 team in the NFC right now. And yes, you lost by 20 points, but you were also the only team all season long to score more than 20 points. Against the Dallas defense. You were the only team all year to put up that many points against that defense, and you did it in their house. Yep. Like there is definitely progression that you can see from Justin Fields. If you're looking at wins and losses to try to judge Justin Fields right now, then you're never going to like Justin Fields because this team isn't built to win. They're not going to win this. I said it at the beginning. See, I wasn't on with the experts. I didn't think that they were only a 4-win, 5-win team. I said they're about between a 7 to 9 win team, and it really just depends on how the schedule shakes up, right? Like,
and a couple of these losses,
really they're winning games that they shouldn't have won.
Closer to 7.
Yeah, I didn't expect them to beat New England, but they went in New England, beat New England. I didn't expect them to lose to Washington, but they lost. Washington's got a really sneaky good defense too, though.
They do.
So they're in on a lot of games as well, but if you're looking at wins and losses to project what Justin Fields is, then you're not going to like him after this year even. But you've got to look at what he's doing on the field, how he's picking apart defenses. Every once in a while, yes, he's missing a throw, he's missing a read. He's holding onto the ball too long. But is that because he's not figuring it out, or is it because his clock is off because he's getting hit every 2.5 seconds?
It would be for anybody. It would be for anybody, but he's very he has a calmness to him that's irregular. And you need as a quarterback. I think that's one of the big things. I mentioned the Pittsburgh game. He came out smiling in that last drive last year for that Pittsburgh game, if you remember, because he wanted it. You know when somebody wants, and he's very calm. I even go back to the San Francisco game, and you have Trey Lance and you have Justin Fields. Who was the more poised quarterback? Like head and shoulders above Trey Lance. It was Justin Fields was totally calm in that game, kept it together. They were down. He came back against a good defense again, and San Francisco, not best defense in the league, but a very good defense. Made a great play to St. Brown in the end there.
Yeah.
And was very poised. Made Trey Lance look like there's no way. I mean, if you're scouting both quarterbacks in that game, I mean, you're definitely happier to have Justin Fields. And even in the Miami game, he was the best player on the field and maybe the best player in the NFL for that one game. I mean, who had a better game last week?
Nobody. I mean, he was the offensive player of the week. I'll tell you right now, you just mentioned this name. I would have cut this guy after the Miami game, but St. Brown needs to go, man. I can't watch him drop another ball that hits him right in the hands. I just can't.
Blocks, though.
Yeah, he is like, dude, he is catching with cheese graters. Like, I don't understand what the hell he is doing out there. That it just like it. I don't know. Like, I don't know what he's supposed to do.
And now that you have Keneal healthy, and you got Chase Claypool, and you got to do something with Velus Jones. If he's not going to be gone, I mean, maybe you can yell about the pick all you want, but they have to try to. I mean, he is speedy. He does run like a running back. You have to try to get him involved. You might be right. I mean, it might be done with St. Brown, but he does block very well. And I just get giddy thinking about Chase Claypool, St. Brown, or we could do Keneal Harry if you want. On one side of the field with a screen pass to Velus Jones or Mooney, and then you have them block up there, and maybe you swing a guard up there too. I mean, that has got to be one of the best blocking screen plays or talent in the league. It's got to be top there. I mean, I do like that, but you're right, that missed catch.
St. Brown's been terrible all year, though. I mean, it wasn't his first drop pass.
No,
I mean,
it wasn't.
This guy has been absolutely dreadful all season. He's definitely not his brother. We got the wrong St. Brown in the offseason. I'll tell you that much.
We did.
The Bears
can't catch.
Yeah, he's another one. Both of those guys got to go. The Bears this offseason, they've got to focus on offensive line. You've got to get a linebacker. You've got to help your run, and you've got to help your secondary. And then, to me, the fourth thing is to go out and get another wide receiver, another top wide receiver to go alongside of Claypool. And then you could fit Mooney. To me, Mooney's not a number one. Mooney's a number 3 on any offense. If you take Darnell Mooney, tell me one other. Let's go over and I'm going to talk about the top receiving cores that you have in this league, which are the ones that are winning, right? Let's say over in Minnesota. Is he a number 1 in Minnesota or even a number 2? I don't think so.
Who would he be a number 2 over in Minnesota?
So you've got they've got.
I think he could be a number 2 in Minnesota. No, yeah, I mean, you have to have one of those.
There's no way.
You have to have one of those Randall Cobb. I'll say
he's a number 3, but he's a slot receiver. He needs to be used like Wes Welker was used. He needs to be a slot guy who's running those slants across the middle. That's what Darnell Mooney is. He needs to be a wide receiver 3 who's lined up in the slot, who's not getting drawn the attention of double teams and the Chase Claypool. If you have him as your number 3, I think that's where he is best. That's where he is the most effective, is in a Wes Welker type position, Julian Edelman type position. Right?
I think he's better than that because he could take. I don't see Wes Welker wasn't taking the lid off the defenses, and I think Darnell Mooney can do that. I think he can do a fly pattern here or there, and especially that route he ran for the touchdown against Miami was great,
and he can make sensational catches.
I think that's what separates him a little bit.
Yeah, he can make the Odell Beckham type catches. Like that's
he can do that.
He can do that, but he's not a guy. He's not a guy that can. And Odell Beckham to me wasn't a number 1 wide receiver.
Really?
Odell Beckham, no, because he made like a couple of really good catches, but look at his numbers. Like he was never that guy who was racking up the yak or was making people miss or doing any of that stuff. And that's what you need in today's NFL. You need angry runners like Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool, once he has the ball in his hands, man, he runs angry. Like he wants to run you over.
Did you like that? What did you think of that trade? I mean,
I thought that trade was amazing. Essentially what you did was you traded you traded Roquan for a second and a fifth, and then you traded your second for Claypool.
Yeah.
So essentially, you traded Roquan for Claypool and a 5th round draft pick. I think that's a great trade. Yeah. It's a great trade, especially for what you're trying to do moving forward.
I don't see some people have the grade at C plus. I don't see that because now you don't have to draft. You were almost definitely had to draft a wide receiver in the 1st round next year.
Yeah.
You almost definitely had to. Now you really don't have to. You can get that 3rd or 4th round pick. You can go into free agency, like you keep saying, 114 mil, and maybe get one of the top wide receivers. I don't know. I don't have the free agents that are out there, but
Jeremy chimes in on YouTube. Jeremy, thanks for joining the show. He says, Darnell Mooney is great. Our offense hasn't catered to any receiver stats. Come on, man. Do your homework. I can assure you, Jeremy, I definitely do my homework.
Thank you, Jeremy. Vindication.
However, you're not going to cater to any wide receiver stats behind this offense anyways. But even when you do, Darnell Mooney is still not a number one wide receiver. He's just not. I like Darnell Mooney. I like Darnell Mooney. I just think that he is best slotted. And again, Jeremy, thanks for joining the show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for chiming in. Make sure you click like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Join us every week. But I just think he's more effective in a wide receiver 3 type role. I don't think he can be. If I'm running out there every week and Darnell Mooney is my number 1 wide receiver,
yeah, that's a problem.
I'm not happy.
We've all seen that.
Yeah, I'm not happy. Like you've got to go out. You've got to get another wide receiver in the offseason.
I just don't agree with you as a 3. He's a 1 on a bad receiving core. I think you're right, or an average 1. At best, but I still think he could be a 2.
I mean, we could go around. We could even look at bad receiving cores. Is he a 1 in Washington? I don't think he's even a 1 in Washington.
Maybe.
I mean, to me, I don't see it. Is he a number 1 in Cleveland?
Deep threat in Washington? Who's the deep threat in Washington?
They've got God, I
forget his name.
I'm always terrible with names. McLaurin, Terry McLaurin, and they got Curtis Samuel as well. So to me, Mooney's not a number 1 in Washington. I start looking at other teams around the league. You look at Cleveland.
Is he a number 1 on the Packers? I think he probably is. He's definitely better than Randall
he's
Cobb
probably
right
the
now.
only he's probably the only wide receiver that Aaron Rodgers would trust.
Yeah. So he's
so maybe he's a number 1 in Green Bay. So we found one team in the league that he's the number 1 on, which is another 3-6 team. So great shot there.
In our bad division.
So I don't know. So you think Mooney is a number 1 wide receiver?
I think he's not.
Man, our nation, rise up.